Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video, those damn icy boys are back with yet another crazy aggressive price cut, this time on the Alephium A6. So the AL3, AL2 Lite, AL0, all got very drastic price reductions that are game changers, right? To the point where the whole pricing structure is going to need to change. It's kind of crazy. We're going to talk about it. Look at the prices. Is this thing appealing now? What are the risk factors? And what is it going to look like? Okay, so we'll talk about it. We'll give our overall thoughts and just see how this thing stacks up and if it's going to be worthwhile, right? So if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get right to this damn thing. Big tweet today, something we're kind of expecting. I wasn't sure if it was going to be as aggressive just because, again, how the market has been doing. Now, the reason for this aggressive of a cut, Alephium has not been performing as well as some of the others. Currently, it's Bitcoin and some of the leading alts. Okay, Bitcoin, Doge has been pumping, right? And it's a lot of the news going on with the Department of Government Efficiency and some of the other alts that are just strong, right? Alephium is a very tiny market cap. Overall, hasn't been doing too hot, actually. We'll look at it here in a second. Let's get to these prices, though. AL3, which is the big beast, 15 terahash, 3,500 watts, $39.99, bros, right? So that initial price cut down to 10K was pretty hefty. Now it is a fraction of that, so very big price cut, especially when it's compared to the AL1, which is the Bitmain variant of it, which is very equivalent. It kind of demolishes that, right? So now we'll talk about that here in a second. So the AL2 Lite, 2 terahash, 500 watts, got cut in half, $600. AL0, 400 gigahash, 100 watts, those are now $200. Okay, so the big part of the price cut here, again, is the profitability because of the hash rate increasing pretty significantly, and Alephium's price action definitely not keeping up. As a matter of fact, going down. Okay, for you guys remember, this thing was a ridiculous price for the longest time. Currently, income-wise, you can bring in $25 after your 840 electric, about $17 a day profit. Okay, which isn't too bad actually. And then shout out to miningnow.com for now adding our little feedback that we provided to them to put the yield on here. So now as you click on the individual ASIC, you actually can see the yield. So not only the fiat value, but the yield, which is all in reality what we care about here. Okay, so you'd be yielding about 23 alpha a day. So overall, not too bad there. If we look at the prices of the other guys, so on IceRiver site, those are their prices. I do have a coupon code with them, but realistically, not even going to really mention it because it's better prices on the reseller sites. So realistically, honestly, if you're interested, go with the better price, right? So for example, Nhash's prices, they do have the AL3 for $37.99 shipped. Okay, so it does beat even like the IceRiver site pretty significantly. Even the smaller units, $649 shipped for the AL2 Lite, and then $249 shipped for the AL0. Okay, or $299. $249 is if you buy multiples. Okay, so the reason we're saying it's going to have to reprice everything is because now the AL1, which again just had this recent price cut from being 30K down to 10K, and now essentially it's going to have to go down further. Okay, so they have that 10. Are they going to match the AL3 price, or are they going to go lower? Okay, there's potential for that also, so that's definitely going to be a risk factor there. So kind of up to your opinion on which one you think value-wise would it be better. If they're in the same ballpark range, it's arguable, but realistically to me, Bitmain is going to be the superior unit. I would go with the Bitmain unit over the IceRiver unit if the price is identical. If there's a significant premium with the AL1, let's say they do cut, but they go down to 5K, 5,500, 6K, somewhere around there, the AL3 would be more appealing. The big difference this time in comparison to like the Caspa ASICs, they're pretty much on par as far as efficiency goes, right? That was a big differentiating factor with the Caspa ASICs, is that the Bitmain units were significantly more efficient, right? So it definitely made more sense to go with the more efficient unit. In this case, they're very identical, or pretty damn close to it. Okay, so kind of depending on what happens here, How is Bitmain going to respond? Are they going to respond, if at all? Right? So because of how the market's going right now, BTC is hovering in the 90K range. Kind of just depends on how bullish they are on it. Or are they going to follow suit? Are they going to continue to chase like they did with the Casper ASICs? I mean, if we go by history, which has been very consistent, right? We're kind of talking about this, that we needed a big price cut on the AL3 to consider it, and kind of here it is, okay? Now, it definitely is going to affect the other models as well. Again, all the gold shell models are all going to get wrecked again. Even their new guy, the ALBox 2 Plus, the 1 terahash model at 649, you're going to get twice the power and better efficiency with the same price pretty much with the AL2 Lite. So realistically, this thing needs to go down to $300. And even their bigger model, the EAL1M at 4.4 terahash, it's ridiculous. It needs to go down to probably a quarter of that. Because again, you could buy two of these guys for $1,200. This is still double that price. So this would need to go down pretty significantly, right? Especially because it's so much less efficient. Okay, so will they, won't they? Realistically, it's going to make 0 cents to buy one of these things at these prices, right? Will they maybe hang on and hope for price appreciation? That's also possible, right? Because again, they're pricing it based on 2 days profitability. Will that always be the profitability? Depends on Alephium's price action, right? Again, we tend to focus on yield. I've talked about Alephium a whole lot. To me, in my opinion, I believe it's a coin. It's currently only $100 million market cap, ranked number 496. Has a ton of potential. It is one that I am very bullish on. I think will do very well come the bull market. Now, financial advice, to each their own on that subject. Again, you kind of have to decipher where you think it's going to go. To me, I think it's very feasible that this thing does hit a $1 billion market cap, putting it around a potential 10x. Okay, so if that were to happen at some point, if your yield were to remain in this range, instead of it being, $25 a day, it could potentially be over $200 a day, right? So different factors to consider here, though. It's not that simple. Okay, so IceRiver. Alephium doesn't have the emissions reduction that's aggressive like how Caspa does, but what is going to happen here and that is going to affect the yields is the hash rate and the difficulty, which is it's still a very immature network. Okay, so that is definitely going to be a risk factor. Because of that, it depends on your situation, but the biggest thing here, the biggest thing that would make this a good value prop is if you think Alephium is going to continue to struggle for potentially these next 4 to 6 months to allow you to get some yield. The reason I'm saying that is because you want this thing to not be super popular, super profitable beyond what it is right now, so you can continue to stack this amount of Alephium per day for as long as possible. Is it likely to go up because of its price reduction? Of course. But if Alephium also does have price appreciation, it's going to go up significantly faster. So this would realistically be most beneficial if you think it's going to struggle for the next 3 to 5, 4 to 6 months. Then that way you'd be able to maximize what you're able to do. Okay, because at that point you'd be able to stack a lot of Alephium. The reason I'm saying that is okay, well, I'm super bullish on Alephium, but why are you saying that you want it to be kind of bearish for the next 4 to 6 months? Because let's say things do rip. Let's say we do get a mini altcoin season come January, which is potentially expected. Okay, if that were to happen, it's not going to take a whole lot for Alephium to go back to $2, to go to $3, or go beyond. What's going to happen if that happens, though? So instead of it being $25 a day, if it's still bringing in this amount of revenue, let's say it goes up to $3, that's now $66 a day. Okay, and that's where things drastically change. And again, if this ASIC's only $3,500, $3,800, becomes massively more appealing, which is going to cause what? Not only the price of this thing to go up, but the hash rate and difficulty to go up and your yields to decrease. Okay, so ultimately the hash rate and difficulty has been going up because of these prior units pretty significantly, so it's not as crazy as it was initially, because again, for a while it was just doubling. So every time it doubles, what happens? Your yield gets cut in half. Okay, so for example, currently we're about 28, 29 petahash. So for easy math purposes, For the hash rate to double from here, right, we would take around the estimated amount of units. In this case, we'll do easy math. The AL3 is 15 terahash. Let's say 2,000 units brings you to what? It brings you to your pretty much your next level. It'll bring you to almost exactly 30,000 petahash. Okay, so it'll be 30,000 terahash, which is, again, you're just dividing by zeros here. Brings you up to 30 petahash, which is what? Just about the overall current hash rate. So for 2,000 units to come online, that's all it's going to take for your yield to get cut in half. Okay, so that's why it's a big risk factor, right? And if Alephium does pump, let's say February comes and altcoin season really starts ripping, it's not going to be unfathomable for this thing to go to up $4, $5, $6. And what do you think is going to happen? This is going to continue to go up massively. Again, currently as is, only 2,000 units will double this thing. Okay, and that's just only considering the AL3, not considering the AL0s, the AL2 lights, the gold shell models, because all those will also become more viable now because it's more profitable. Okay, so it's very likely that, again, just like how we saw with Caspa, for the hash rate to just continue to go through the roof, right? If it continues in that trajectory, it's going to go up. It's going to go to 100 petahash, 200, 300. We saw how quickly it escalated with Caspa's price appreciation, right? They literally couldn't make these things fast enough. Okay, so that's a big risk factor here, and something you have to consider when you're doing your calculations. Okay, it's not something that's going to be as stable as some of the others. It's kind of the advantage and why we're so appealing with like the L9 and such, because it is a much more mature network. So yes, the hash rate difficulty is going to go up, but it takes a metric ton of units to really like double the hash rate at this point. Okay, is it probably going to double within the next year? Probably, but even then it's still mega profitable, right? The thing with this thing is it can not only double, it can triple, quadruple, go up 5x, which would mean what? Your income, your revenue, the amount of alpha you're mining would go down by that same interval. So go down to like a fifth, right? And that skews things drastically. So that's why these kinds of things are much more appealing in the bear market when there's less interest. It makes it less likely that you will see these massive increases, although it's possible. So that's definitely one big thing. Another risk factor here to also consider is, again, Bitmain. What are they going to do? Are they going to do something similar? Are they going to go even more aggressive? Are they going to undercut them? Are they going to go under 3? We don't know here, right? Or do they have another unit? The other big thing that we mentioned in the beginning when these things first came out is that it's very odd that both of them had the same efficiency, right? We saw that initially with the KS3, but what happened not too long after? Bitmain was kind of sandbagging a bit, and they had a unit that was twice as efficient not too long after. Is it kind of the same thing here? Because again, we've seen that Bitmain's typically twice as efficient as the competition. So is it possible that yes, this happens and they end up dropping the AL3 from Bitmain? That's another risk factor. Okay, so there's definitely a lot of things to consider. Again, it's never as simple as just going on here and calculating the ROI. With things like this, where it's such an immature network, you have to take into consideration the potential of the hash rate doubling, tripling, 4xing, 5xing, seeing how that's going to affect your yield. Again, the focus here, if I were looking at it, is yield. And you have to take in consideration your time lapse here, right? It's potential. Things can start getting crazy as soon as like these next coming months or any time reality, right? We just saw what happened with Doge these past 30 days. Saw what happened with Bitcoin these past 30 days. Right? It's potential that by the time these things come out, they go through the roof also. Okay, which is, that's what makes it difficult, right? So when you look at the price and what it was priced previously, it's like, oh man, so again, anything can happen here, right? So to me, the play would be, if you're interested in the bigger guy, it would be to hope for the big price appreciation, mine what you can mine prior to then, and then flip the unit. Right, so you're betting against essentially that there may not be another bigger, better unit prior to that happening. If you think the AL3, if you think these 15, 16 terahash models will be the latest and greatest for the next 6 months or so, or whenever this thing pumps, then it may work out because you'd be able to get it, mine what you can, and then sell that thing as soon as the pump does happen. Okay, because again, just like we saw with the Doge A6, overnight those prices go through the roof. So it'd be a similar play here. Like that to me would probably be the best play here. Because again, to maximize these profits is these next 12 months. The reason that we were saying that there was still appeal with the L9 is that I think it'll still hold up well after the bull market. This guy being such a small market cap coin, in terms of mining it, I wouldn't feel as confident. Okay, so that's why, again, for me, most of the ASICs I'm really going to be eyeing are things that can hold beyond them. At least for the big units. Okay, what is kind of appealing are the smaller guys. So like the AL2 in this case. Price comparison to the big unit though, the big unit is definitely always going to be the better price to terahash. So is it potential that this guy drops a little bit more if it kind of struggles in by the time these things ship? Potentially. Would it drop a whole lot from the $500-600? Probably not. It's gonna be hard to see this thing go under like $4 or under like $400 or $500, but potential. But it would be under the same guise that you would get it, stack as much as you can, and then flip it as soon as the price goes up. Because if the price does go up, again, it doesn't take a whole lot for the price to go up, and because of that, it doesn't take a lot for the profitability to go up, right? Because currently, again, it's yielding about 3 coins a day. Let's say it goes up to $3-4 a day, right? Then it goes up to $9 or $12 a day. Okay, but again, the difficulty and everything goes up. So again, the key thing would be as soon as it pumps, literally start trying to flip it before the big batches from these other manufacturers come out. Okay, so there's potential there, but again, the mindset needs to kind of change because of the time limiting factor here, right? So kind of depends. So I'm not going to lie, this guy is still appealing because this is what we're kind of waiting for. We're kind of banking on another price reduction because, again, it made no sense that both the Bitmain units were, or the Bitmain and the IceRiver unit were the same price. And because of alpha price action, it just didn't seem too likely, or it seemed likely, I should rather say, that we were potentially would get a price drop if it continued, and so far it has. IceRiver was the first to do it. Is Bitmain going to follow? We don't know. We don't know how aggressive either. Okay. So overall, it is appealing. There still is risk, but to me, realistically, the appeal would be one of the smaller guys, just to degen a bit, and then potentially buying the coin, right? Which, again, if you guys saw, I did buy some yesterday, actually, oddly enough. To me, these prices are pretty good. Risk to reward is pretty good. I do believe in Alephium personally. It is one that I think will do well. There's a lot of catalysts and reason that I am saying that. How long it's going to take for it to appreciate, we don't know, right? This is kind of the hard part with a lot of the altcoins, especially the smaller cap altcoins. Okay, kind of what I'm banking on is something similar potential to what happened with like Adina, for example. This one didn't really have its significant pump until right at the end, right? You can even see the price action in October of 21. It was in the $2 range, and then not even a month later, $25. So anything can happen again, and that's also kind of the same thing. It's going from a very small market cap, doesn't take a whole lot. There's a lot of incentive for these manufacturers to pump this thing, especially potentially towards the end of what may be the end of the bull market, just because at that point they know that's the time to sell these things. Will that happen? Won't it happen? We don't know. That's a big part of what I'm kind of betting on. But overall, guys, it's pretty crazy. Risk to reward. Again, it's obviously more appealing at these price points because, again, if they do another price reduction going from 4K down to 2K, isn't going to kill you. From 30K to 3,900, RIP, right? So again, this is where risk factors come into play. Price points, again, even if the prices go down, it's if a unit's like $600, $800, could be worth the risk to reward. Again, these are the prices now. If Alephium does run up prior to then, expect the prices to go up just like we saw with Doge. But then once those prices go up, those batches are shipped, those batches are plugged in, expect that yield to go down, and therefore potentially your profitability to go down, right? So it's a lot of risk factors. And it gets a lot more difficult now, right? This is the big thing why everything was so appealing these past 2 years, because we had confidence that we had time. We had time to stack. The time is kind of running out. So, like, at least to maximize with the ASICs. Okay, again, the biggest value proposition with ASICs is being able to stack for a long period of time. If you're unable to do so, it makes it way more difficult. right? Because you don't want to just get one of these things with the goal of breaking even at the end of the bull market, right? You want to be able to do that prior to then. You want to be able to stack. You want to actually make some profit from it as well here. Unless it's a coin that you think will be viable and profitable, not only viable, profitable beyond this bull market. Okay, and it's not like November comes and instantly goes back down 90% either. It's like a slow trickle down. Some of them it is aggressive though. The smaller the market cap, the more likely that it is an aggressive price drop not too long after. Okay, so again, it's a lot of stuff to consider here. A lot of benefits too, though. Again, if Alephium does pump immediately, it'd be one of those things where you want to flip. You could potentially pre-order it now at $3,800, and by the time you get it, if Alephium does pump by then, be able to sell it for $5, $6K or more. Or the inverse happens. Maybe things get super bearish. Alephium goes down to 50 cents. Who freaking knows, bros? Again, now that we're this deep in the game, it becomes harder, right? Harder. I do highly recommend making plans though, guys. Like, think about things like what things are going to be on your radar, what isn't on your radar, what price points would make you have that thing on your radar. Like for me, I pretty much made my mind up. Kind of already know what algorithms I want. For the most part, if I want exposure to the coin, it would be under a small one like this and potentially buying the coin, right? Which is what my play was. My play prior to all this, I kind of pretty much figured that this is the route things were going to happen. And I made my choice with these guys and then buying the coin. Okay, but kind of to each their own. Got to see where you find value. This is the time where there is still time to stack. Okay, mining becomes hard because it's a long-term thing. Buying right now, especially a lot of these altcoins, this is, again, like we've been saying, these are those times. Okay, the Bitcoin has ran up a lot. Certain coins like Doge have ran up a lot. There's a ton of others, though, that have not. This is one of those times where depends on your portfolio, depends on how bullish you are on certain coins. It doesn't matter whether it's Alephium or any of these other coins. Consider these things. Look at these things. Prices are still good. Risk to reward still makes sense on a lot of these. We don't know which one's going to have the mega pump. We don't know if this is going to do mediocre and only do a 3 to 4x from here, or if it'll do a 10, 15, 20x. Hard to tell, bros. But this is the time to be taking those bets. Consider all these things. Look at them. Think about them. And come up with that plan so you can come up. Because there's going to be probably a lot more units coming out. Again, my prediction is anytime between now, especially now because of how Bitcoin pumped, how Dogecoin pumped. Expect to see these next 3 to 4 months a lot of new ASICs coming out. Right? Because they want to get these things in hand. They want to sell these things. Okay? And for us, it does benefit us if they come out early because there still is time potentially to make money on these things. Okay? So, to each their own, guys. Let me know in the comments, though. What do you guys think? Do you guys kind of agree? Disagree? Are you guys tempted by this price point? Because, again, it's like mind-blowing to think that a few months ago, the AL1, which is almost the same thing as the AL3, was $30K. $39.99, bros. Crazy. This is the game we're in. This is the market. Crazy. Like, I still can't, it's like mind-blowing stuff. But let me know in the comments, guys, what do you guys think? Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I am out.